Awesome. Hello, everybody. This is Larry Wilkins, your customer success manager over here at MoxieWorks. Today, I'm excited to be joined by a couple of fellas, and we're going to be talking deliverability with you guys to go over some commonly asked questions and some of our best practices. So, without further ado, I want to pass it over to Dave Greenbaum and Matt Julik to introduce themselves.
Hey everybody! Thanks so much for joining, Larry. Thanks so much for having me. I'm David Greenbaum. I'm the Chief Customer Officer at MoxieWorks. Email deliverability is one of the most common topics that comes up, but one of the most misunderstood topics as well. So excited to dig into that with everybody today.
Hi, guys. My name is Matt. I work with Dave and the team here at MoxieWorks. I've been in marketing and technology for quite a while, working with email marketing platforms. And I've had the benefit of learning a fair bit along the way about email deliverability. So that's what we're going to chat with everybody about today.
Fantastic. Yes, I was really excited I could get the three of us all in the same room. So, to kick off the chat today, Matt, quick question for you. For agents who hear email deliverability but aren't even sure where to start, could you explain what deliverability means in plain English?
Yeah, sure. So it's kind of a multi-layer answer, right? The simple layer, the top layer, is it's exactly as its name implies, right? Email deliverability is in essence, did the email that you sent for marketing or business purposes get where you intended it to go? Did it land in your prospect's inbox, your client's inbox, right? Did it not go to spam? That part is simple. I think what we're going to talk a little bit about today is not so much that side of things, but more what are the factors that influence whether your email gets where it's supposed to go.
Absolutely. I agree. I think that's a great way to frame it up. So, Dave, to piggyback off of that, why do some agents end up in spam even when they think they're doing everything right?
It's a great question, and I think this gets to where a lot of agents will get confused, and I think rightfully so, because deliverability can be complicated, and it is certainly nothing that they teach in the license in the course to get your real estate license, right? So why would they know? Oftentimes, agents will come to us and say, "Hey, I noticed this email ended up in spam." And it's not really making sense to me because if I look the way I did it, my content seems really strong. And when we look at cases like that, often what we're going to find when we look into the why is the audience that they sent it to was too large. The email clients like Google and Outlook, they're getting tougher and tougher, and the red flags are getting easier and easier to set off when it comes to the number of contacts that are sent to in a day or in a given communication. Sometimes the inverse of that is sometimes they'll say, "Hey, I've got really well segmented contacts. This should be going perfect." In that sense, we're looking at the content, right? And we're finding things like all caps, dollar signs, text to image ratio, all things we'll dig into a little further, as we go here. But more often than not, it's going to be either content related or contact related.
Excellent. Yeah, I appreciate that, Dave. I think that that reminds me too of a great analogy I think that you shared, Matt, in the past with me about deliverability being that of a credit score. Can you explain a little bit more for folks watching?
Yeah, sure. So before we get into that, I just want to reemphasize what Dave said about, content and context, right? When if you're an agent listening to this and you're thinking, what can I do to improve my deliverability? That is absolutely the best place to start. What content are you sending? Is it going to resonate with your audience? If you were your audience and you received this content that you're writing or that you're drafting, would you read it? Would you be interested in it? Right? That's the place to start. And to bring the credit score analogy into this, if you think about, perhaps going to a car dealer and trying to get a loan to buy a new car, for example, right? Having a job, having income, looking at a car that's not way out of your price range, that's the equivalent of the content and the contacts in this case, right? You need to be looking in the right ballpark with the right, income and all that. But even if you have all that and the dealer knows you have all that, they, when you apply for credit, are still going to run, your credit score. And they're going to look at that number and they're going to figure out, do we want to loan to this person or not? And so when we think about deliverability going beyond the content and the contacts, the credit score is everything else, right? It's what Dave mentioned briefly in terms of things like text to image ratios. It's things like, are people marking your emails as spam? So do you have a history of sending emails where the content's unfortunately not great and your recipients are just clicking that spam button? There's a myriad of those factors, tons and tons and tons of those factors. And to Dave's point, the systems are getting smarter every day. They're adding more factors every day, right? So you want to make sure when you're kind of sending your emails, that you're not setting off any red flags on the credit score side or on the content and contact side. The good news though is that, generally speaking, if you kind of approach things in the right way as an individual sender, as a user of these marketing platforms, you really don't need to worry too much about all that technical minutia. We'll talk a little bit about some of the tips and tricks in a moment here that you can think about. But when you're using an email marketing platform like Moxie Rise, where a lot of that stuff is handled behind the scenes for you, it's not stuff you really have to get into. That stuff, that technical minutia, in the weeds, that is the kind of stuff that becomes problematic when you're not doing the top of the equation right? If you're not doing your content right, you're not, segmenting your contacts, that's when you have to worry about that stuff. And it's exactly the same as a credit score, right? It's like, if you don't have the right job, if you're looking at a card that's too expensive, then you got to worry about it. Whereas if you do, most of us just walk into a dealer and get a loan and we're on our way, right? Same kind of deal here.
Can I add one item on there, because Matt's analogy of the credit score was perfect, and it's one of the best ones to use when thinking about this. But one of the things I want to call out, there is one big difference, and this difference is the thing that should make an agent or a brokerage who is having email deliverability problems feel really, really good about getting out of it. Is because when the one thing about a credit score is, if you end up in credit troubles, you got years of it. You got years and years and years before you can get that dialed back up.
Mm-hmm.
One of the greatest little known secrets about deliverability is domain reputation works on a rolling 30-day average. So even if it is not going well for you, it is the kind of thing where you can literally turn your success around inside of 30 days if you just start making very, very tailored changes to the way that you're doing things.
And that's a really, really good point. I forgot to mention that. And I think the key takeaways for any of you that might be listening to this thinking, yeah, my deliverability is terrible now and it's all this technical stuff and I don't want to worry about it. Dave's comment is why you should, right? This is unlike a credit score short term. So you can change your thinking around now and it will have an impact in the near term for you. So don't be discouraged, if you're having troubles right now, because you can absolutely turn it around quickly.
Absolutely. I appreciate that, guys. I think that's a really good example. I think it's definitely a good way to look at it. A common one that I hear as well, or that we hear people consider, and is definitely more nuanced, is trying to cast the widest net possible. So you've touched on this a bit, and I think that my next question might overlap with it. But for both of you, what do you guys think some of the biggest mistakes agents make with their email lists?
I'm happy to kick off. It's for me, the biggest one I see, and again, I want to stress, like, a lot of the things that we're talking about here, agents wouldn't be expected to know these things. So, one of the things that agents are told, I was a real estate agent for 10 years, and they even say it to you when you're getting your license, is that real estate is a contact business. The more people you contact, the more business you're going to do. And that is completely true, makes all the sense in the world. When you're thinking about email deliverability, you need to kind of pull the reins back on that a little bit. And it doesn't mean you still can't do an immense amount of reach out, but you really have to be very segmented in how you're doing it. Not sending all things to all people, or even if you are an agent who has a substantial list, because many agents do, we see contact databases that go from, some agents have 50 contacts and we see some that are tens of thousands. And, I think if you are someone that has a very large list and it is one that you have legitimately accumulated over the years of just running your business, versus the list that you go and buy, and we'll probably touch on that a little bit later, even segmenting within that, or even if you want to send that newsletter to all those people, segmenting into smaller batches, because those are the types of things, again, you wouldn't know it, but it really does matter. If Gmail, as an example, sees over 2,000 emails sent from you to Gmail contacts in a single day, they're going to flag you. You're going to end up on their list. You want to stay under certain thresholds. So for me, the little note back and the thing that people should think about is segment.
Yeah, as Tate was talking there, I was trying to think of a different answer just to kind of add here, but I really think what I'm about to say piggybacks exactly on that. Um, so many agents amass these huge lists and they treat marketing like, throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks, right? The idea is I want to, do one email blast. And from that email blast, I want to identify a handful of people to then continue, a deeper conversation with. And if you think about that, like, on the phone or in person with somebody, right? You're, you can't go into a room full of 500 or 1,000 or 10,000 prospective home buyers and expect to deliver the exact same message to all of them and then have a handful raising their hands at the end of your seminar or whatever, because in that room you're going to have first time home buyers, you're going to have retirees that are looking to downsize, you're going to have all different kinds of people and they need a different kind of conversation. As a real estate agent, you have those conversations all day, every day, right? It's easy for you in person to have those conversations. What you need to do to be successful with email marketing is think, how can I segment these big lists that I have into groups where a particular type of conversation is going to resonate, and then send emails, and content that is likely to hit on that group. If you're throwing spaghetti, that's when you're going to get into trouble for volume. It's when you're going to get into trouble for people clicking spam. So yeah, I don't think I have a better answer than Dave. Segment.
Awesome. I love that. I think the most important thing to both of your points is putting yourself in the recipient's shoes. Is this something that's going to resonate with them, and will it be well received? So I guess I wanted to give one more chance too, because I think segmentation is so critical. Is there anything when it comes to getting emails opened and engaged with that folks should keep in mind in terms of segmentation?
For the way I think about it, as far as if you're thinking about through just in general, like what would be attractive, what would get someone to open it. I think subject line is huge. Sometimes I'm going to exaggerate for effect, but sometimes we see agents put almost a whole email into the subject line. Don't do that. That again is a red flag. Keep it short and sweet. Something that gets them to want to open it, but at the same time, be wary. Exclamation points, all caps. Those are the things that come off spammy, and that these email clients are getting smarter and smarter about picking up on. The other thing is, not to get overly technical, but again, just kind of thinking through this in the eyes of an agent. Segmentation. Now I got to go segment my list. Now the things, and a lot of the email platforms, most that you'd be using, Moxie Rise being no different, make that very, very easy to do. But let's just say you don't want to do that. Really look at the platform that you're using. And again, I'm going to talk about MoxieWorks Rise because it's the one I know inside and out. And look at what are the tools, what are the automations in there that can actually do this for me. So in the MoxieWorks world, using something like SmartSend, and something that will literally look at your contacts for you, pay attention to who hasn't opened the last 3 emails, and automatically exclude them from the next communications, so that your open rate goes up and thus your domain reputation goes up. You use the ability to put conditions, leverage the conditions that you can do to say, I only want this to go to people that opened this last email, or someone that clicked this thing in this last email. So even if you aren't comfortable or don't want to take the time to go into your database and set up tags and things of that, and I totally get it, leverage the automation that your email marketing platform provides you to do that for you.
Could not agree with that more.
Fantastic.
Think of all these platforms, just wanted you to do blast, they wouldn't provide these robust campaign features, right? There'd be no reason for us at Moxie to be developing triggers and conditional logic and all these different kinds of things if there wasn't a point, right? And so, Dave just hit on all the reasons why that's so critical.
Yep, absolutely. And I definitely see from my customers as well, hearing more about how Rise Email Campaign Manager allows you guys to have that personalized touch and hit just the right people. So I love that. Anything else from either of you, I suppose, on email content and what you think best performs, or what, what's best practices in terms to getting to that inbox? I think a very common question is, again, why did my email end where it is, or how did we reach the promotionals folder? What's some other best practices?
Sure. Dave, you want to start with that one, or you want me to take that one?
Go for it.
Sure. So yeah, to start off, I mean, there's a couple things I would say to go back to where, pick up where we were in segmentation, right? Again, I want to reinforce, like I've worked with a lot of agents over the years, and it's a very common question. Well, what do I send? You're telling me my content is so important. What do I send? What do I send? And I think the thing to think about is that, again, you know, email marketing is really about the start of a conversation with a prospective client, right? So you should think of it in similar terms to, I'm sitting down with this person for coffee, or I'm sitting down in their living room to present, a seller presentation, whatever, right? You just need to think of it in those kinds of terms that you're more familiar with. The reality is, as an agent, every single day you answer a million questions for people. And those people are asking those questions of you because they don't know the answer. So that's perfect fodder for really good content for emails. So don't sell yourself short or think, oh, well, I'm not a marketer, I'm not this, or copywriter, this or that. Doesn't matter, right? The point is, you have information that people want. That's what you can leverage to have an interesting conversation with them. So that's the first thing I'd say. To get into, I guess, a couple other little tips and tricks and things that I've seen. When you're creating these emails, lead with text, right? A lot of times, especially today with things like Canva and all the image generation and AI and stuff like that, people have a tendency to sort of overuse images in emails. And the reality is, spam filters hate images because it's very difficult and quite honestly costly. When you think about the scale of something like Gmail, it costs them real dollars to evaluate all those images. And so instead of evaluating them, they kind of tend to just block them. So when you write emails, write them, right? Lead with text. If you're going to use images, make sure that they're sized appropriately. I've worked with a lot of marketing departments in my career, and there are people that have incredibly visual minds, and they make these beautiful things for emails, but then they export them in a size that's like fit for a billboard on an interstate, right? You don't need something that big in an email that's going to be looked at on a 7-inch phone, right? So scale the images down; they will load faster, and that changes something called text to image ratio, which is a big, or not, maybe not the biggest component, but it's a significant component that the spam filters look for in terms of filtering for spam. So it's those are two really simple texts, and making sure your images are correct. If you're doing that and you've got good content, you're well ahead of many other people. So
If I can add two fine points onto that. On the text image ratio, a lot of people say, what is that? What's optimal? And I always tell people 60-40, and then sometimes when you 60 text to 40 image, and sometimes when I say that, I get a lot of blank stares and like, well, how do I measure? I tell people, don't overthink it. Look at it this way: when you are looking at your content, if you even doubt for a second, you have too. If you're even doubting it, that means you're too heavy on image. Scale that down a little bit and go text. And the other thing I would add is, because again, really, thinking through the eyes of the agent, when we say lead with text, if I'm an agent, I'm thinking, I am not a copy. I didn't sign up to write these things. Again, your email platform should be leading you to water on these things. You are some of you are great writers, but some of you are not comfortable. That's okay. Lean into a feature like, again, in the MoxieWorks Rise world, lean into smart copy. Tell it what you want, tell it what you're thinking, and you can even set up the tone or the length of what you're saying. It will do that for you. If you are doing something that is more newsletter style, again, this gets to the segmentation, and you are targeting this at sellers or buyers or investors, lean into the real estate content in your blog module and in the smart feed module. Bring that in and literally tell that who you are targeting, and it will surface up articles that are tailored to that persona.
You triggered a couple of thoughts for me. I think this is great. So there's a couple things I would add to that. So just a quick tip on the 60/40 text image ratio kind of a thing. We all have gotten emails in our inboxes where you get that little security warning at the top that says load images, right? Click here to load the images, right? All of us have seen that. Ask yourself, if my images don't load, what is the person going to see, right? Is it going to be a white screen with a bunch of little tiny red X's and a security warning, or is there going to be at least a little bit of text there to suck them in? So that's a really, really easy non-technical way to sort of think about that. Yeah. And I was going to add a comment on the smart copy. A lot of the folks that I've worked with over the years have had really solid marketing departments behind them, and those folks are cranking out, amazing content. The problem is when the marketing person in the office is providing it for all of the agents in the office, it can end up with a lot of agents sending duplicate content. And so, to Dave's point, right? Like, lean into that, obviously, but in a lot of cases, you don't even have to write anything. You can literally say, like, here's what my marketing department wrote. Can you just tweak this a little bit? And you're not, violating the spirit of what they've written or anything like that. You're literally just changing a couple of words around, and that makes it unique to you. So the message is the same, but literally the words are a little bit different, and that also helps you stand out. And Moxie Rise makes that super, super easy. A couple clicks, and you're off to the races there.
I agree. It's a fantastic tool. Gives people that opportunity to make those customizations quickly and get emails out. So yeah, again, I think you guys I appreciate all the insight you've given. I'm sure everybody a lot to think on and discuss with their teams. I wanted to give us a chance for closing remarks as well. Kind of wanted to pitch a quick question to you guys for rapid fire. Just basically for both of you, if an agent only changed one habit this week to improve their deliverability, what would you recommend? Even if it's something we've already discussed today.
Yeah, if it's one thing, I would say take the time to look at your contacts, segment them into lists that will make you far more targeted. And if you're not comfortable with that, lean into the technology that your email marketing platform gives you to do that on your behalf. But if you're going to lean into something, lean there.
And I would say probably ask yourself, is the person I'm sending this to really going to benefit if they read it? Right? Am I putting good content out there?
Excellent. Yeah. Well put. Well, thank you guys again. Again, we are excited to get feedback from everybody at home watching this video. If you have questions, feel free to include them as well. And we appreciate you guys watching. Thank you for the time, and I'll see you soon.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for having us.